So how do you do that? Learning to do a freestanding handstand is a skill that a lot of people want to learn to do, and we believe is possible for a lot of people to do. It's not just a strength movement. Most people have the ability to hold themselves in a handstand if they use a wall, but they just haven't practiced properly for learning how to balance themselves when they don't have a wall. So this is about practicing perfect and having a progression that you can follow to be able to get to the freestanding handstand. So let's go to step one, using the wall. Okay, so here is step one for learning to do a freestanding handstand, and that's going to be making sure that you're strong enough to hold yourself upside down. So we're going to use the wall, and this is the first step, is trying to hold yourself for 60 seconds in an inverted position. The main thing here is we want to make sure that our stomach and butt are engaged and we're pushing through the ground. Okay? It does not have to be perfect position. I'm okay with a little bit of a pike in the hip. If that happens, what I don't want to see is that your back is really arched. You shouldn't feel that tightness in your low back. I'll show you what that looks like. So we can just start down on all fours. Okay? Really stay in your comfort zone here. This is just about strength more than anything. So we step up to the wall and we find a position for ourselves where I'm pushing into the ground, my back is tight, my feet are together versus being really wide. Okay? So try to find that nice long position. Some people end up kind of like this to start. I'm okay with that. Again, we're looking to hold this for 60 seconds. What I don't want to see is that your back is arched like this. Okay? So try to focus on your ears being right between your arms as opposed to out front, and pay attention if you feel anything in your back. Okay? At any point, if you're uncomfortable there, you can step down and just work up over time to be able to hold that for 60 seconds. Once you can do that, we'll move into a more inverted position against the wall, getting closer to real balance. Okay guys, now we know we have the strength to hold ourselves upside down. We're starting to get a little comfortable being upside down. We're going to start moving into a more inverted position where our body is closer to the wall. Now at this point, I'll tell you, we want to try to get a spotter to stay in your comfort zone. And we'll talk a little bit about different styles of handstands. We're going to be doing that perfect line handstand. This is more gymnastic style. Maybe you've seen people with a big arch. That's not wrong. That's just not what we're training here. So I'll talk about that in some of the other steps as well. So what we're going to do is basically the same exact drill, but this is our next goal, is to get our wrists about an inch or up to maybe 2-3 inches from the wall. Basically as close as we can get our wrists to the wall. And what that does, it forces us to get our body in a perfectly straight line. What happens though is that it gets scary because as we get closer, it feels like we might fall on our back. So this is why we were saying it's nice to have a spotter. The spotter's whole job in this scenario would be just to make sure you don't fall over. And so the first thing that we're going to teach ourselves here is how to bail out, this pirouette style turning out to the side. So before we start getting into holding it for a length of time, we want to practice how to fall and how to fail. Again, I highly recommend getting a spotter for this for the first time, but once you're comfortable, this is really easy to do on your own. So here is our previous position when we started all fours. So we would step up. Now we're going to walk our hands close to the wall. As I get closer, I point my toes, so my feet are not like this, but I point my toes, and I try to really bring myself in close. Right away, I can feel the wall start to push me off. So the way that we escape from this position, if we start falling over on our back, is to turn my hand, I quickly move my hand out, and my foot falls to the side, okay? So I recommend before you really get into that position, that you fall on purpose, on your own. Again, get a spotter if you're uncomfortable, but we can step up, get pretty close to the wall, and then just fall out. Just turn and bring your leg around to the side. Get comfortable with that. And then start working in closer to the wall. Okay? So, from there, once you're comfortable turning out to the side, you really want to work your wrists in as close to the wall as you can take it. Toes pointed, your body should not be touching the wall. Only your toes at the top. You're pushing through the ground, stomach and butt squeezed tight. and we're going to try to hold that position for 60 seconds. If you're doing it properly, what you'll feel is actual balance. You'll feel that your toes might come off the wall, and you'll be really, really close to the wall actually doing a handstand. And what that feeling feels like is a feeling of weightlessness. You have to be comfortable with that falling feeling because the weight will come out of the heel of your palm, move into your fingertips, and you'll feel this kind of weightless feeling. And that's scary when you first start, and that's why we start practicing falling first, and why we want to have a spotter. You need to get comfortable with that sensation. Okay? So when you're doing this properly, this 60-second hold, I want you to really feel like you're doing a handstand. We'll try to get a shot so you can see how close my feet come off, and let's take a look. Walk yourself up. Okay, I gotta tuck my chin, okay? Wrist nice and close. If you can see my feet, they're not on the wall, they're kind of coming off. And you can turn out to the side. Okay? So learning to get this really tight position, this is an important step. Learning to feel weightless and comfortable in this nice long straight line position where the weight is in my fingertips, not just the heel of my palm. I'm not resting on the wall. From here, we can start moving into some fun stuff, getting away from the wall into some real balance work. Okay? So moving on, this is our third step. We're comfortable and strong in that handstand position. Now we're going to be using what we call a forearm support. And I have a 12-inch box here. This can also be 2 sets of those blue panel mats maybe, but think something that comes up to around the elbow or the top of the forearm. And what we're going to do is use this to brace ourselves. So I'm going to perform a similar thing, except what I need to do first is get my wrist right next to the box or the mat, whatever you're using. From here, you're going to step up to the wall. Okay? So you can see how the box is against my forearms. I'm going to bring one leg out, and I'm going to bring the other leg out to join. Okay? So what's happening there is basically I'm shortening my arm. Right? So instead of having to balance just down in my hands, I now have a balance point up by my elbow. So this makes it easier for me to find balance. I can feel the pressure in my fingers. I can kind of lean against the box a little bit. And the rest of my body, though, is in free space. So from here, I can start to really see what it's like, those micro adjustments for balance. And what I can do, when I get good with that, is I can go a little bit shorter. I can use down to a 6-inch box. And just to let you know, some people struggle to get their feet up to the wall from here, so you might need to start with the box out a little bit if people struggle to kind of get their feet up. So that's okay as well. But again, set yourself up. Now, same position. You really want to feel your wrists really tight to the box. Hands in handstand position. Bring one leg out. And hold. Okay? So that's a little more challenging because now, instead of supporting me up here, it's supporting me lower. So now I'm getting closer to the real thing. The last step here is to do this same drill with no box. So again, this is a little easier than moving in free space because it's less dynamic. I can set myself up first, I'm going to pull one foot out and then the other and try to find balance. Okay, remember, for all of these, use a spotter if you're not comfortable, but at this point you should be able to turn out when you feel like you're going to fall over. That should have happened a couple times by now. So, again, here's the situation. Set myself up, same hand position, come up to the wall, bring one leg out, and the other leg to join it. Okay? So now you're pretty much doing handstands. But the last step is going to be, how do we learn to kick up? This becomes more dynamic. We need to move ourselves into position versus stepping up against the wall. I wanted to put a note in here. I commented earlier about the arch back position or not practicing that perfect straight line. Remember, that's not wrong. And if you want to work into just handstands a little quicker, something you can do and you don't have a spotter maybe, you can perform the same drill I'm talking about and not obsess over that body position. While again, they're two different skills. You can practice the same drill from the opposite side. Right, so you can do something like this and try to bring your foot out and find balance here, even if you're arched a little bit. Okay? And that's a way you can practice as well if you prefer. So it's not wrong, it's a little different. Just want to put that in there for those of you that struggle with that straight line versus the arch back. Okay, so you guys are doing great at this point. You can hold a handstand, but now you want to learn to kick up. And this is not exclusive to, you don't have to wait to this point to learn to kick up, but we really wanted to focus on the ability to balance as the most important piece, is just spending more time and more practice upside down. As we kick up, we're going to teach you guys something called a lunge, right? Where the arms actually start overhead. So they start like a handstand, and we kick up from this lunge position. So we're still going to be using the wall here, and we're actually going to start really simply with our hands on the ground. So the position looks like this. I put my hands down, maybe a foot from the wall, okay? I try to find that nice tight shoulder position, and my leg is back in a lunge. This is like surfing or snowboarding where one leg will feel natural, you know, which leg is underneath you. Okay, so one leg is straight, and the other leg is under me in a lunge. And what's gonna happen is, keeping my arms straight, I swing my leg, and I push off the leg that's underneath me. And I'm just going to go from here, just try to kick up, swing the leg into a handstand. And I also want to practice coming down in the exact same way. Nice and controlled. So finding control here. So swing the leg up and back down. Okay? If you get a little further from the wall, you can kick up and try to not touch the wall. End up in a handstand. Have the control to come up and not let your feet hit the wall. So that's a really simple way to start to learn the kick up. When you get strong and comfortable with that position, right, we're kicking up and back down. Now we can start moving from a standing position. So focusing on where we just were, arms stay straight, I just move into that position and I come back down. Okay? And that's what we're going to practice. So it's a pretty basic movement, but we want to, again, practice perfect. We want to avoid coming down with our arms breaking that position. So arms overhead. We end up standing about a full body length away from where our hands are going to go. So my hands are going to be about a full body length away when I actually lunge up into position. And this feels awkward. It's something you have to practice if you're not used to it. But this is the strongest position for getting into that nice solid position. So I start here, I lunge, reach, and come back down. Always keeping my arms up overhead and my body nice and tight. Okay? Practice that using the wall as a spotter. Move your hands further from the wall and try to kick up. And as you get better, your feet won't hit the wall. If they do, that's okay. And from here, we're pretty much done. So let's move out into free space and see what happens. So you know you can balance on your hands now, and you've practiced the lunge with the wall. It's time to go out in free space. So again, use a spotter at first if you're uncomfortable. But again, at this point, you should be comfortable with that turnout. You can also use some mats. Stay safe, but at this point, if you follow the progression, this should be feeling pretty good. So remember, out in free space, we start in that nice lunge position. We reach and turn out when we fall over. Okay? Good luck. Have fun. Let me know how you do.